Welcome, everyone. This is too loud. We have 1 minute before class starts. All right. The videos aren't working right now, but that's okay. All right, 7:10. We'll start our opening video, and then Miss Sylvia will actually do an opener, which is current events. She'll do the 3-minute current events.
My God, your hair! I go out of town for 1 month and I come back.
My boss is an offensive dumb fuck of an idiot.
Oh my God, your hair! I go out of town for 1 month and I come back and it's like, did it shrink? Do you wash it? Can you wash it? Girlfriend, how are we gonna go get cornrows now? Why did you change it? Oh, it was Black History Month. Is that how your ancestors wore it? What about your boyfriend? Does he like it? He dumped you? Could you hook us up? I'm just kidding.
Situations like these make me angry and uncomfortable. I would love to express that to her.
Shut up! Shh! Shut up! Seriously, what's wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you?
But I'm passive aggressive, and I hate confrontation. So I just hold my feelings inside until...
It reminds me of pubic hair. Can I touch it?
No!
Let me tell you about my job. I work at a call center for a new weight loss pill called Gutbuster, the side effects of which include a full month of nausea. We basically sell bulimia in pill form. I actually wouldn't mind my job if I didn't hate everyone.
12 individual packs?
There's the guy who can't take the hint.
12 individual packs.
The drama queen who never shuts up.
And when I confronted him, she's not even black. She was Puerto Rican.
Oh no.
The loud black bitch.
For real? Nah, but let me tell you, you just nasty though.
Just keep it down a little bit.
Keep it down.
Yeah, just I'm gonna call.
Yeah, anyway, so
The guy who always makes weird noises. And the space invading germ chick who probably has AIDS.
can you put this in the, oh, I'll just put it here. Let me show you these files.
They're all pretty much the worst people in life.
Jay!
But they don't hold a candle to this bitch.
I decided to promote Nina.
Oh my God!
Nina.
I hate her.
Hey. Look, I know things have been tense between us ever since I got the position that you wanted. And I thought about it, and I know how humiliating and embarrassing that was for you.
I actually don't remember being that affected by it, so... Stupid Lexi, bitch. You think you're the shit, but everybody knows your vagina smells like fish. 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 No lesbo. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm pretty sure you were. Look, my sorors and I are going out to dinner after work if you want to meet up later.
You know what? That's actually really nice. I didn't eat lunch today,
Oh,
so...
no. I meant after my sorors and I eat. Those are my girls.
Actually, you know what? I forgot. I'm actually doing something tonight, so thanks. Maybe next time, right?
Okay, yeah.
So I'm officially making today my last day.
Ma'am, I'm pretty sure downing the pill with a milkshake is actually counterproductive. So, hello?
I need something new, something fresh, something... Maybe things are starting to look up for me after all.
Fred, hey! I'm so glad you...
Awkward. Is there any proper way to play off waving to the wrong person?
Another sale! Ow! Woo! It's just something we do around here, like, want to congratulate ourselves.
Who does that?
Everybody, all of us, we do it together.
I've never seen anybody do that. Did you just make that up?
Oh.
Okay, well, when you're done high-fiving yourself, I'd like you to meet Fred.
He's the newest member of our team. Watch out, she hits people.
As I pondered thoughts of murdering Nina, I realized I can't just quit. But what's keeping me here?
You guys, we're merging.
Maybe I'll stay. I can't let Nina win. Plus, I need the money.
All right. So later on, you'll see that Pharrell is actually on this. She gets pretty famous for this. All right, so we have any volunteer student presenters? You're going to read your summary to us. Any volunteer student presenters? You all have summaries that are always due on Tuesday. Does anyone want to read their summary? Who has their summary? Raise your hand if you have your summary. Let's see your summaries. Would you like to read your summary? Sure, okay. All right.
Hi, I'm Andrew, and I did my summary on Love and Gold, the story of Rowena and her struggle. So in my previous studies, I read Barbara Ehrenreich's book, Nickel and Dimed, in which she embarked on a series of low-paying jobs as an undercover journalist in an attempt to document the low-paying careers and consequent struggles of low-wage workers in America. For this reading response, my bad. I thoroughly enjoyed that reading and look forward to seeing Ehrenreich delve into the topic of the global woman. For this reading response, I'm using Arlie Russell Hochschild, Love and Gold. Early on into the reading, I could see the idea of multinational corporations influencing equality gaps negatively. Multinational corporations are characterized as villainous and thusly flippant about the problems they cause throughout the poor nations they ravage. It's really hard to imagine that Rowena gets by with only $350 each month, since that is all she does not send back to her family. Some of the money she sends back is expected to be the beginning of a small business. The difference in the amount of money she can make in America is profound, since it is enough to leverage itself and create business, whereas the same worker doing more skilled jobs in their home country can barely scrape by. Hochschild explains the fact that already 40% of legal household workers in the United States are born abroad. I find this astonishing because there must be another great portion of undocumented household workers. It only makes sense for the individual in each case to go towards the richer country to attain an exponentially higher wage. However, the evident pillaging of talent from poor countries must make an obvious economic impact. While the following facts can not only be attributed to the care drain, there must be some correlation. This is as cited by the New York Times Post. According to United Nations Development Program study, 60 countries are worse off in 1999 than they were in 1980 in the Southern Hemisphere. And these statistics are alarming for the state of the world, and it is a problem that does not receive nearly enough recognition in the common discourse of global issues and current events. The fact that President Truman identified the quality of life gap between the northern and southern hemispheres over 50 years ago now, and the problem has only widened, illustrates a general apathy from northern world leaders and a general ignorance of the brevity of the issue for the common person living in the first world.
Excellent. What's your name?
Andrew.
Andrew, excellent. Thank you. Let's give Andrew a hand. All right, guys, just like routine, we're going to do current events, and Sylvia's going to run our 3-minute current event. What's going on, guys? Volunteer what you saw in the globe.
Any ideas, or do you guys want to pitch anything? No? Yes.
The first person died from marijuana was last week.
What?
He fell out of a window. He got really high in Colorado.
Okay.
What was it?
What? He said the first person died of marijuana.
Oh, the first person died of marijuana.
Okay.
So marijuana is being legalized in multiple states, right? And the issue of how to control that, who can access that. There's a lot of regarding also where is that accessible and who, for instance, Colorado, statewide in Denver. You know, think about the demographic of that state, for instance, and then think about Venice in contrast to that, who access that. Even here locally, as well as perhaps in the Central Valley, I'm from Fresno. So, for instance, there's a county there where it's prohibited to actually own plants unless it's for individual use, and that doesn't, for instance, doesn't allow any type of regulation if people own more than one plant and so forth. So there's current issue with that. Anything else?
Well, I don't. This is kind of like celebrity news, but James Franco was. I don't know if it's still alleged, but he was said to have like tried to solicit sex with a 17-year-old girl.
Okay.
And I mean, I guess I don't know if he's received a lot of hate from it. He when he went on a show, like a talk show, he addressed the issue and he said that I guess he's an example of how social media can go sour, which is the simple fact that he was twice her age is really twisted for me, and the fact that people aren't more alarmed by that is just a little bizarre, just because he's considered like a stud in Hollywood or something.
Also has to do with class, right? And race, something that the readings discussed so far. Anything else?
So I was watching the news this weekend, and in Hispanic Univision, they were talking about how during President Fujimori's presidency in Lima, Peru, basically they were pressing charges on him because of the illegal sterilization that he was part of during his presidency. So there was like a female group that was trying to press charges because they didn't consent that procedure. So I thought that was interesting.
Okay, so this ties to some of the readings so far, right, about who is allowed to reproduce and who isn't, and who has the power to do that. In this case, Lima, Peru, has a large population of indigenous population. Fujimori is actually among the immigrants. There's a large influx of Asians, particularly Japanese, in Lima, Peru. Those of you guys are not familiar with Latin America. But it also speaks to, again, relate this back to the reading, the case of race, sex, gender, and then also biopower, that one of the readings. I think I remember one of the questions was asked key terms, right? So relate these, like biopowers was something that resonate across the reading. So that's something that you guys can highlight in one of the readings. Anything else? No? Oh wait, there's one more and that's it. I'm sorry? Who borrowed the mic?
Does this work? Okay. This is this news is kind of old, but like I think it was this weekend or anything like that. But just hear that Westboro got kicked out of Oklahoma, or like they got that one racist church, but it's like super racist and stuff. They had like this one protest in Oklahoma, but they started running. They ran away like 10 minutes into it because I guess somebody crossed the picket line, but nobody got hurt, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, no one got hurt on the racist church. I mean, not anyone good.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. All right, everyone take out a sheet, your summary, exchange it to the person to your right or left, have that person sign it and date it. Sign it and date it. And you're gonna put a check plus on the top of that paper. You have 5 minutes to read it and to do 3 comments. 3 comments. And if you're done with that paper, after you've commented, you could give it to someone else who doesn't have a paper for them to comment. You have 5 minutes.
I went over your lecture as well as the awkward black girl. Yeah. You tied this back with all of the readings and the lecture, right? Or how did you connect them?
Well, she's a gorilla girl, and so later on we talk about women of color actually kind of making, because there is no space for black women to kind of, so it actually ties to one of the readings about gorilla girls and women of color. So.
Okay, yeah, it's one of the texts. Okay, yeah, just have a question. I was like,
yeah,
okay.
But I usually always do videos that connect to the class.
So do you want me to collect the papers afterwards? At the
No,
end?
because I think it's too much work. So we're gonna have them do 5, and then at the end of 5, once we have 5, we'll collect 5. We'll start grading.
No, but right. Oh, so they take this home with them? Then?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to. I don't know. I just don't know how it would just be a lot of horror. What do you think? To take it home?
Because the thing is that you wouldn't be able to take attendance that way if you take it home.
I know, that's what I was thinking.
Because I can take it if I take it home and then bring it all back.
You want to do that?
Yeah, I can do that on Tuesdays. It's just, I don't know, the last Thursday one. It's just so that, because people are actually going to have someone else sign it and date it.
Right,
you
okay.
know, or
okay, that's a good idea.
or make their signature legible too.
Let's have them pass it out in alphabetical order. Well, actually, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, just
anyway,
send
we
it.
can just pass back to them. Okay.
Yeah. And then we'll give it back to them. If they will want it for their son, or they want to review it for the quiz, right?
But they've already uploaded it, so it should be online. So they have it online.
Sure.
All right, everyone, pass it forward. Take your sheet. Miss Sylvia's right there. Pass it forward. Pass your summaries to Miss Sylvia right there. Yes. Just this week, so that's fine. So pass up your summaries. Miss Sylvia will be collecting it, and we'll go into the lecture. All right, let's start. Love and Gold by Arlie Hochschild. All right, take a sheet of notes out. Take a sheet of notes out. Yes. Some of them, not all. Some of them. Okay. But please don't rely on that because in the past, students who don't read and just do the slides generally get around 48 on the midterm. Okay, so it's literally just skeletons, and so it's to help you, but it doesn't replace actual deep reading. Okay, so great, okay, great question. All right, Rowena Bastila, okay, represents the global care drain. What country is she from, guys? Philippines, okay? All right, so Mr. Andrew, right? You gave us a wonderful summary, okay? So it's really interesting, thinking back at what Mr. Andrew said. He said, a lot of these people are educated, but how the north-south power of the globe works, sometimes you can make 4 times or maybe 10 times more than actually an educated person can actually in the Philippines can make 10 times more, 4 times more than an uneducated person in America, right? Because of the money difference. Okay. All right. Let's have. Can you read our slide?
Rowena Bastida represents the global care drain. She's a daughter of a teacher and engineer, and she is a single mom and works abroad. Her 2 kids are raised by her mother, who works 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., and a local nanny.
Thank you. What's your name? Danielle. Thank you, Ms. Danielle. All right, guys, let's actually wrap our brain around this, okay? Ms. Danielle did a great reading, and Mr. Andrew opened us up to kind of the Northwest differences, right? So I want to actually kind of bring it home for you guys, okay? Ladies, how many of you guys want to actually work? Raise your hand. Let's see. Guys, look around. That's not a housewife for you, okay? All right. So what'd you say, guys? The majority of the women? Okay. Now, I wanted you, I really love your summaries. I think they're getting better and better. But I want you kind of more to relate to yourself as well, especially like the last paragraph, okay? Now, if you don't know the U.S., how the labor force has gone in the U.S., it used to be only 15% of women, a certain type of woman, actually worked, right? Of course, what am I speaking of? Oh, yes.
I don't know about other women, but I know I struggle with thinking, do I have to work or should I be more domestic with my children? So that's something I struggle with because I know in the past women played more a domestic role in the household, and then now women have to be go-getters and make something of themselves. So I think that's something I don't know about other people, but maybe our generation is confused about.
Wonderful. What's your name? Brianna makes a great point. Thank you. I think it is a different generation, and it's more difficult for you, especially later on when we're going to talk about Sheryl Sandoval and her kind of saying every woman should lean in or something, right? Which is not really possible. But going back to my point, in the past, around 15% of women worked, but it was a certain type of woman, right? What type of woman only 15% of women worked? Were they African American women? Were they Irish women? Were they Chinese women? What type of women didn't work, the majority, back in the day? That did not work, the majority did not work. Yes, mostly kind of like English women back in the day did not work, right? And just to tell you, if you're interested in kind of the history of women's studies, this is a constant tension in women's studies, because guess what? African American women, Latino women, Irish women, Jewish women, Eastern European women have always worked, right? So please put down your notes, okay? They've always worked. But the shift that's happened is now everyone's working, okay? But keep that in mind. Actually, there was a huge, during the kind of the first wave of feminism, when women were like rah-rah fighting, to vote, actually. And does anyone know the saying, the first generation or the first wave of women, what they said? I want to get out the what? What did they say? Andrew, do you know? Okay, Sylvia, do you know? The first wave feminism, right? They wanted to get the vote out, and so they told women, right? Only that certain type of woman that wasn't working, because the majority of other women were working. Okay, Jewish women were always working. Okay, African American women were always working. Who were they? They said, get out of the kitchen. Write that down. Okay, so that was their slogan. Let's get out of the kitchen. Let's get out of the kitchen. Right. The only issue was this. It was predominantly British descended women. Right. Of course, the Irish maid was working the whole time. Right. But actually, during one of these meetings, an African American woman came to the forefront, and she got the mic, and she said, "You know what? I don't want to get out of the kitchen." Do you know what she said? She says, I don't want to get out of the kitchen. I want to get out of your kitchen. All right, so I'm going to bring it back to you ladies. Now, you guys all, and also gentlemen, raise your hand. Do you attend to work? Attend to work too? Raise your hand, guys, okay? All right, gentlemen, persons, peoples, different genders, okay? Now, I want you to think about this. Mr. Andrew opened it up. If you work nowadays, who will watch your child? Right, this directly links to our slide. Who watches your child if you work? Because it's, again, a certain type of woman. Ms. Sylvia, can you get that? Who is usually, if you are working, you're emancipated, you're independent, right? But usually there's a certain type of woman that will watch your child, right? Linking directly to our thing, who is that woman that watches your child? Grandparents? Yeah, sometimes.
Well, I think what you're trying to point out is no immigrant workers generally do a lot of that type of work.
Yes,
and
correct.
I also wanted to point out that if we're in a state of change in the world right now, gender roles can change, and men could take care of children as well too. So a lot of different things could happen.
That's a great point. Actually, more and more men now, especially your generation, are demanding to take care of their kids more. They're demanding to go to baseball teams, etc. That, to be honest, the other previous year, they didn't have the choice, right? You had to work 9 to 5, right? And so that's your struggle, right? We're all interconnected, okay? Excellent, okay? So here we have Rowena, okay? She's from the Philippines. Securely middle class, right? Daughter of a teacher and an engineer, okay? What is pushing her to move abroad? What's pushing her to move abroad? Yes. Go ahead. Her kids? Let's keep going. Yes, you're correct. But what else? Trying so guys, could she have supported her kids in Philippines? She could have, but probably would have been very difficult, okay? Now, does she have a husband? He left. Her husband left, so write that down, okay? So there is a correlation with international nannies, okay? So write this down. The correlation is there tends not to be a huge father figure, okay? Or the father figure is not hugely supportive financially, okay? So I think that's a key to remember about Rowena, okay? Now, what do you gain and what do you lose if you work abroad? What do you gain?
One of the things that you would gain was that, or that she would be able to gain, is that she'll be able to send money to provide for her kid, and that's the whole reason why she's going abroad.
So guys, the international rate is almost sometimes 4 times the income, okay? So raise your hand if you're in Rowena's situation and working on maybe a more unskilled job in the U.S. would get you 4 times the income of working, let's say, being a doctor in the Philippines. Raise your hand if you do that. So there'd be a 4-time difference. Okay, some of you. So the people not raising your hand, why aren't you raising your hand? I'm kind of curious. Why aren't you raising your hand? Yes?
Well, I would know that the effects of my child not having their mother present could be worse for them than living a life of more luxury.
So your question is, would I know the effects of someone, of my child, if they had... Okay. Okay, so you're saying the emotional effect, okay? The emotional effects would be greater, the loss, okay? So I notice a lot of people, especially everyone here, none of you raise your hand to go abroad. Why is it? It's 4 times the difference, sometimes 10 times the difference.
I personally value family over money.
What?
I personally value family.
Okay,
and
family
the
over money,
opportunity
okay.
to, see your children raised rather than being financially wealthy.
Interesting, great, good point. Okay, yes.
I think some of us who raised our hands were not valuing money over family. We're actually also trying to look at it as we're providing for a family, but it just comes out a little differently, I guess, than some people's view.
Good point. Okay. Let's actually change it up a little bit. Let's do another very common scenario. Okay. School around the world, is it free or is it generally have to pay? You have to pay, okay? Now, if you let's flip it over. If you're valuing your family, right? So over here, you all said you're valuing your family. But if you knew that if you worked abroad, you could send your kids to college and also give them a secure upper middle class lifestyle, okay, with a car, etc., in your country, would that change your view, okay? Because you would be securing college for your children. Would anyone push that person out of the country?
Well, just because you're securing the fact that they can go to college doesn't mean that they actually will.
And also school, okay? So I think from the fact that our class totally disagree, right, really is indicative that these are really tough choices, right, that these women have to do. And it is, I really love this book because it looks at globalization from the bottom, okay? Because, we see these millionaire people flying back and forth, right, jet setting, but really there's many more millions of women who are going all over the world, right, to actually raise other people's families. All right, so Rowena, okay, so let's go deeper, okay? So she hires a nanny to take care of her kids with her mother, okay? She is a nanny to 2 other kids, and she carries a picture of her own kids, okay? Let's talk a little bit about the loss, okay? And again, we're talking about millions of women, right? Millions of women in America, okay? What is the loss? I don't know if anyone here is a parent, but what is the loss of if you don't see your kids for 5 years?
The loss would be something that's immeasurable because it's just time lost with your child.
Excellent. Okay. Any other losses, guys? Time's one. That's a big one. Mr. Andrew, what else do you lose if you don't see your son or daughter for 5 years?
Well, I think your child loses the certain connection with you and may find someone else to replace you in the parental role.
So someone replacing you? Okay, excellent. Anyone here? Yes.
No, well, in the book, she mentioned that the little boy just told her, "Why did you even come home? We don't kind of want you here." I mean, he's really young. He probably doesn't understand the reason as to why his mom left, but just the neglect, it just hurts. If I would be in a lot of pain if my child told me that, but I don't know. I guess just not just the connection, but I don't know, just the whole process of why did you have kids? Or I would question myself why did I have kids if I wasn't even going to be able to be there with them? So just the whole process, I guess.
So let's unpack this, okay? So you said why would you have kids, right? But precisely, they're going abroad to support their kids, right? Okay, so let's delve deeper. What is, you have a time loss, you have an emotional loss, okay? What are other losses that you have when you are abroad for 5 years?
Hello? Oh.
like everything basically what they say before, but it's also I don't know how to exactly put it, but the child kind of loses out on many opportunities because they're very deprived, and then they go along with like low self-esteem, and then it kind of affects them long term. So I'm not sure if that applies to.
So you're saying the overall, it would be a negative for long term.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. I see a hand up here. I guess over there. Okay. Here you go. All right.
So the woman also loses out a lot too, because she has to leave her entire life and immigrate to a different country and integrate with the culture and possibly live in like a really crappy living situation, like depending on where she is and, you know, if she can actually live like the way she might want to. I don't know. So.
Chris makes a great point. He says the woman loses out too, guys. Now, I want you guys all to put yourself in the situation of these nannies, right? I think we all can agree they're doing a lot of it to help out their family, right? Now, what is it like for you to take care of two other kids, right? Right? You're taking care of two other kids while your kids are at home. That, you know, who's taking care of them, right? Well, is that another loss? Like, is it emotionally? I think, Mr. Chris, you make a great point. The pain is probably intense because you're taking care of two other kids, okay? All right, so Mr. Manouche and I were talking outside, and who's traveled abroad? Who's traveled abroad? All right, you must have seen international nannies where you've been, right? You go to Middle East, you have Indian nannies. You go to Hong Kong, you have Indonesian, Filipino nannies, right? You go to Japan, you have different type of nannies. You go in LA, you have Latino Asian nannies, right? Now, guys, I want to talk about more losses. How are some of these nannies treated by the family? Not too good. Let's, an example. Mr. Manouche, you got to tell me. Okay. Talk about the Indians in Middle East.
My first assumption is it would be in their best interest to treat them well, but depending on the scenario, like some of them get treated next to nothing, and they're just seen as like subordinate individuals compared to their superiors that just employ them.
All right. Who has been to Hong Kong? Who's been to Hong Kong? Raise your hand. Anyone been to Hong Kong? Okay. Oh, no one. Okay. Actually, if you've been to Hong Kong, it's almost surreal. On Sunday afternoon, you have literally thousands of nannies coming out. They're primarily from Indonesia and Philippines, and they just sit on the street. And when you talk to them, they will all relate stories of being abused, right? It's a really common sentiment of these nannies of not getting food, being hit, right? Told what to eat, what to sleep, okay? So it's a very non-desirous thing, but it's very interesting because the nannies in Hong Kong have degrees. They have bachelor's and master's, but they can just make 4 times the income in Hong Kong than they can in the Philippines. So I do want you to think about that, the losses that people incur. All right, the feminization of labor, okay? Can someone read that?
Oh. Thank you. There's a growing split between the rich and poor countries because of multinational companies. For example, middle class of third world earn less than the poor of the first world. Another example is that $176 as a secretary, teacher, or doctor in the Philippines, or $400 in Hong Kong or $700 in Italy, equates to $1,400 in the U.S.
As a domestic worker.
Yes.
Okay, so guys, write that down. You get now, if you're a logical person, right, look at the numbers. You can be a doctor in the Philippines and make $176. Or you could be a nanny in the U.S. and make $1,400. Right? So do you see how it is a logical, it's a very logical decision that some of the women make, especially when they don't have husbands, right? When they don't have people to take care of them, okay? So let's unpack this, okay? Now, ladies, we talked about it, right? If you are working, right, often the child care in America is done by women of color, right? So you have to unpack that, right? So your quote, how should I say, emancipation or aspiring to have it all, okay, does that not put sometimes a woman of color taking care of stuff for you? Okay, so let's unpack that. Okay, now looking at the numbers, right? What do you guys think of the numbers? Is it logical for these women to move out of their country to be a nanny? Yeah. Okay. Would you do it? Yeah. So a lot of you said yes, right? There are pros and cons. Interesting. Okay, this is a global phenomena, and so this article, the reason why it's the first article, one of the beginning articles, is because it is literally millions of women all over the planet. It's globalization by numbers. It's the majority of mass movement, right? And it's not mass like millionaires or even multinational. It's women traveling to other countries, taking care of other women's children, right? So I want you to think about that. Globalization instead of the top, right, top 1%, let's look at the bottom 80%. All right, demand of servants. Can someone read it? Make this smaller.
Demand of servants have increased in developed countries such as Hong Kong, Singapore, and servants from Indonesia, Korea, Thailand allow women in the richer economies to take up new employment opportunities. So for women to be equal, they must exploit other women. Thoughts, effects on children that are home alone.
All right, let's talk about it, guys. All right, you guys, raise your hand again, ladies, if you want to work. All right, who's going to take care of your baby? All right, let's go down the line. Who's going to take care of your child?
Hopefully my mom.
Your mom? Okay, that's what my mom said. Okay, go ahead. That didn't happen. Okay.
I'm not sure, really. I would just think of like daycare or something like that.
Okay. Who's going to take care of your child?
Hopefully my mother.
Okay. Have you discussed this, guys, with your mothers? You should really discuss this first.
Depends on whoever is still alive. When I have a kid. Yeah, I don't want any kids at all.
Still alive, all right. Who's going to take care of your child?
I don't plan on having kids.
All right. Oh, okay, great. That's your choice. Wonderful. Okay. Who's going to take care of your kids?
I grew up going to a daycare, and so personally, I thought that, like, I, of course, developed a relationship with my babysitter, but I also got to grow up with other children that I wouldn't, like, you go to school, but then you go home, so you don't really get to see kids that aren't, like, sitting in their desks looking forward at the teacher raising their hands. So I thought that, like, the environment of daycare is important.
Awesome.
I think I would take care of them for the first 6 years until they start kinder or maybe child.
What's
time with them?
All right, what's your name?
Stephanie.
Miss Stephanie. Now, we have more and more women taking care of their kids and staying at home, but it's a class question, right? Because many women can't take care of their kids even if they wanted to. So let's unpack that. So Miss Stephanie, right? She wants to take care of her kids for 6 years, but that insinuates that you have someone that can provide for you, right? And guys, you know what? It is shocking. 1 in 3 pregnancies now are women who are having kids intentionally not coupling, okay? So if you want to look in LA, right? So really, it's not an option, right, for many women that you just stay at home. Yes, who's going to take care of your child?
Probably my mother.
Mother? Okay, I'll call your moms here. All right, who's going to take care of your child?
I was going to say my mother-in-law because I'm hoping my income can actually take over the income that I know she's like barely struggling to make.
Okay.
So,
interesting. Yes.
My mom.
Okay. All right, guys. Is that? Or do you really think your mom will take care? Have you discussed this with your mom, Mr. Manush? Have you discussed this? Isn't your mom? Aren't your moms working? No. They're retired. How old are you guys? Your moms cannot be retired. You're like 20. Okay, your mom's gonna be 40. So yes.
Jenny here.
We have one.
If I work, the CDC here offers a really great program for undergrads, and that's what I would do next year because I've been a mother for 2 years and I'm having another one.
Congratulations.
So that's what I would do.
Oh, excellent. We actually do have a great child care center here. Okay. Do you have to pay or do you not have to pay?
It all depends on your income, and most undergrads are broke, so no.
Okay. All right, good point. All right, guys, I think you really have to take your mom in a dark room and corner her and ask her if she really is going to take care of your kids, because I question that, okay? And how can your parents be retired? They're like 40, okay?
Well, in my case, my mother's an immigrant, so she can't really do anything. And she's been a nanny for many, many kids as I've grown up. And then she told me, if I'm still moving when you ever decide to have a child, if you pay me, I'll take care of your kid. Other than that, no.
Payment, okay?
I think most of us would say our mothers simply because we trust her more than we were to trust a stranger. Simply because if I had kids, I wouldn't want another individual that I don't know personally to raise my child, because I would want to raise my own child and teach him the values that I know. So most of us, our mothers are always there. Usually our fathers, like, I come from an immigrant family, so my dad wasn't around as much. So I grew up with my mom.
Okay, great.
And so I feel that's why we're like, oh, our mom will take care of our kids, because we trust our mom enough to know that they're able to raise our kids right.
Great point. Thank you. Okay. All right, guys. I actually want to ask you guys, who was actually raised by your grandmother then? Raise your hand if you actually were raised by your grandmother. All right. So very few of you were raised by your grandmother, right? So then who raised you? Do you go to childcare?
At least for me, I spent some time with my grandparents because my parents worked literally from 8 a.m. until 7 p.m. every day. So when I wasn't in school, then I would always be with my parents at their factory. But even then, I really didn't see them as much because they were always working in the back. So I was usually by myself. But when I started school, I was lucky enough that my grandparents lived in the same town. They actually lived in the apartment right above us. So my grandma would pick me up from school, and then she would take care of me for the 4 hours until my parents came home.
Great, you're very lucky. Yeah. Okay, saw your grandmother. Okay, excellent. All right, so I want you guys to think about that. Your grandparents did not take care of you, so you're expecting your mother to take care of your children when you yourself are not taken care of, right? By your grandparents. Okay, investigate that. Okay. All right. Nanny love equals love away from real family. Okay, let's unpack that. Rowena, she loves her child that she's in charge with, quote unquote. Okay, and her child loves her. Is that true? Yeah, so as a nanny, can a nanny love the child and can a child love you? Okay, but let's unpack them, Mr. Andrew. Who's loving their kid at home? A different nanny. So it's a woman, a nanny, a nanny, a nanny. Okay. So you're kind of outsourcing your love to other nanny. Okay, so you're kind of hoping that nanny loves you. Okay, all right, I see a hand. Yes. That's a great unpacking. Actually, there have been surveys on this, particularly in Hong Kong, for instance, on the nannies, right? And the nannies predominantly who actually go to Hong Kong tend to be mothers themselves, right? There are actually single moms, right, or single women who are single have no kids, but the majority of women have kids themselves, right? So I don't know about other situations, but in terms of Hong Kong and Filipino nannies who go to Hong Kong, most of them have kids. Okay, that's a wonderful question. Okay, and actually that's a huge unpacking, because what if you're single? Does it matter? Okay, all right. In the Philippines, all right. So this new article, the care crisis in the Philippines, and again, I think we probably have a lot of students who actually have parents who are nannies, okay? There is a huge number of Filipino women. We're talking about large thousands upon thousands of women who immigrate out of the Philippines. And Rachel Salazar Parrenas, she's actually world famous, for looking at this actually huge phenomenon. She wrote the book Domestic Servants, and she interviewed a lot of these Filipino women in Italy, Italy and also LA. So I want to show you this book that she has. If you're interested in this kind of talk, she actually interviewed these women, and she actually wrote a whole book about it, quite famous, called, if you're interested in this, she's actually written, not this one, Global Servant, should be Parrenas. Let's see, this book right here. She actually is world famous now because she actually interviewed so many Filipino women, and she asked them, why they did it and the emotional cost. So it's kind of cool. We're actually, Mr. Andrews said that he loved nickel and dime. This book, Global Women, is actually pretty cool because it takes the most famous works and it puts it into one chapter for us, right? So just know that everything you're reading is actually kind of like a New York Times bestseller, okay? So she has a whole book that's based on her chapter, okay? All right, can someone read it? Miss Sylvia's back there. Can someone read it?
A huge number of Filipino women migrate out with a huge effect. One of the effects is that kids have little to no care and grow up in divided families and emotional strain. Another is that 34 to 54% of Filipino population is supported by remittances.
Guys, what is a remittance? And that's a key term. What's a remittance? I see my hands up. Anyone back there close to Sylvia? Anyone near here? Okay, what's a remittance, guys? Scream it out. Mr. Anderson?
It's money sent back, It's like money sent back home through the mail, usually, to support the family.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you. Guys, let's look at that number. 50% of the entire country of the Philippines is supported by remittances. Does that change your view? That's millions of people, guys. Right? So it's not just, it's definitely not just the children, right? They're supporting a teacher. Right, he works in that school. They're supporting food that's sold to that child that lives at home. Okay, so guys, that is a huge number. These women are warriors. Okay, and if we would do the numbers for Mexico, for China, you'd have similar numbers. Not as high as 50%, but certainly quite high. Okay, so let's talk about this. This, I don't know if this is shocking to you, but 50% of the Filipino population, the Philippines, is supported by remittances. Okay, let's wrap our head around that. What does that mean? 50% of the entire country.
So I'm an economics major, and what's crazy about that to me is that basically what that says to me is that we're supporting that country economically, more or less, which is insane. Like, absolutely insane to me.
Yeah, great point, great point. And the numbers, if you look at the Philippines or Mexico, is quite high. China is quite high. Caribbean countries, if anyone here is from the Caribbean country, also very high numbers, right? So guys, you think about globalization at the top, right? Oh, the guy's a millionaire, Donald Trump. But it's the women on the bottom, quote unquote, right, that are actually supporting the entire country, right? And it's not just the Philippines, right? Same thing about Jamaica, Trinidad, of course, certainly Mexico and China, but this is something I want you to think about, right? So you kind of think about nannies and how they don't mean anything, they don't do anything. They do supporting a country, 50%, 1 in 2 people, that's a lot of stuff, supporting.
That statistic is based on both genders, or just...
I don't know. I have to go back and check. But remittances, I don't know if they look at a gender. In the Philippines, it's mostly women who travel out, but also a lot of men as well. Okay? I don't know if they divided it by gender. That's a wonderful question. That's a wonderful question. All right, yes?
I think this shows that the Filipino population, like the systems that are going on in there, are basically fabricated by like first world countries. Because not only are they're like directly and indirectly supporting the economy there, right? Because they have their international businesses, but they're not paying these people well, right. So they're forced to leave the country and get paid in the United States. So it's like their United States, or I guess first world countries are the ones that fabricate this whole system. Whereas if they wouldn't even try to exploit the people in the Philippines that are getting paid so little, this wouldn't even exist.
That's a wonderful point. Excellent. Right. And remember, guys, don't think of just the Philippines. You could think of Mexico. You could think of Trinidad. Think of Hong Kong, China. That's those other countries as well. There's really big, huge differences that these women, and a wonderful question, women, and also men who travel out. It is, in our book, we're looking at mostly women, okay? But I'm assuming there's lots of men who also go out as well, okay? All right. So one of the huge kind of unusual things. Now, let's wrap up. Mr. Chris, you said that you're economics major, right? And you said, okay, we're basically supporting the country. Let's just look at it this way, okay? On one hand, these women, and I'm not saying, we're not just talking about Philippines, we're talking about globally, these women, right, are going all over the world and supporting their country, right? But on the other hand, the Filipino government does what? Can someone read it? Because you guys talked about losses, right?
Negative consequences. The government blames women, cause of family breakdown, crimes, no communications, feelings of jealousy of kids at home.
Vesta? Thank you, Vesta. Okay. All right, guys. So on one hand, these women are literally, supporting 1 and 2 people in that country, right? On the other hand, the government, please write your notes, are blaming them, right? The government is blaming them for the breakdown of the family, right? So again, I don't have any answers to that, but that is very interesting that the government is actually going out of their way and saying that it's actually the woman's fault, right? But I know you guys were talking about earlier, actually, in looking at surveys from Hong Kong domestic workers, which I'm more familiar with, these women, if you ask them, well, why are you going abroad? They always say, my husband does not support, I need to make money for my family, right? So it's very interesting, something going on there, okay? All right. So I want you to think about this, and I want you to bring it to the blogs if you haven't, okay? Especially my new students, or write this in, okay? So I want to watch the rest of Made in China, okay? And again, I want you guys to think of the ascension, okay, of China, right? So China has one of the fastest GDPs on the planet. Economics major, you know, okay? It is rising, right? People in China are becoming millionaires and billionaires. I'm not joking, right? But let's look at the majority of people and how are they actually improving their GDP, right? So definitely one is manufacturing, all right? So we're going to watch the rest of this. And I'm going to have a robust conversation. Okay. Let's see. How do we play this? Oops. Sylvia, how do you play this? Does it play? Does it play this one?
Like your brothers and sisters. Or don't say brothers and sisters. If you treat your workers like workers and friends, why should they stop work? Well, some people might stop work if they are being punished. They will say, I don't want to go to work because you punish me. Well, then we just tell them, if you don't want to obey the rule, go home. That's it.
那么现在那样的事情，就是说你们不干活的这个事情没关系。
我们的猪猪嘛，不是那个价格吗？他跟我们定的不公平，我们就跟他吵，就是那样子的。他没跟我们董事长讲，我们就跟那个组长吵嘛。他说他跟我们讲了，但是我们的公价呢又没加上去，就是那样子的。其实也没什么。就是把你工作量增加了，钱没加是吧？对，就是那样子。
你把人家霸道给你好意思啊！吃吧吃吧。哎。知道他讲什么吗？他听不懂。没有。叫生日快乐。哪里啊？不是。生日快乐，不是。新年好。我不能笑话，受不了。
We have a regulation. No woman is allowed to go to the men's room, or no man is allowed to go to the woman's room. And we coach sometimes some people who doesn't want to listen to a regulation, and then we punish them. Well, how we punish them? We punish them by stop them paying them for 1 month. Excuse me. If they really want to talk about love, they should talk outside. Outside the factory when they were off during the Sunday. It's better for them too. But if they were caught, then we put punishment on them and make them feel guilty and make them feel that they should not do it the next time. That's important. I don't want this factory become a hotel, an hourly hotel. That's not good.
他也心里话呀，以后找男朋友啊，还有工作方面呀，还有讲得来的事呀，就讲那么多。
妹妹你好，转新月，转眼又是1年过去了，你过得快乐吗？幸福吗？姐姐希望你在这新的1年里心想事成。这个让我讲，没事。听说，笑什么讲？那我不讲了。听说侯海军在追你。哦，原来打算把我认识的一个小帅哥介绍给你，看来现在不用了，真是可惜呀。没想到我这个姐姐都一把年纪了，也没有人追，妹妹身后却有一大把的男生追求，真是羡慕死了。现在一个人在那边好吗？别怪我，再见。祝早日找到人生的知己，愿幸福美满。姐，红。
Would you do it outside of New Orleans or only during Mardi Gras?
No, only in New Orleans can this happen. Only in New Orleans.
But is it why though?
Because this is the party city. This is the get drunk, have sex, show your titties, party city. You know, everything.
I think the women when they show the teeth, they love the beast. When the color or the design that attract them. Secondly, is because they are so happy, or they are so crazy about getting that beat because of some reason. I really don't understand too, but I think that atmosphere make them feel that they are so happy to get what they expect to get. So they just show their teeth.
Okay, we're gonna put in the same situation of 1.3 billion Chinese people. Who is actually here from China? Is anyone here a student from China? Okay, anyone? All right, we're gonna put you in the same situation as Chinese in China. There's around 1.3 billion people in China, and they have something called the Houkou system. Write this down in your notes. Houkou. What that means is where you're born is where you will stay, okay? Where you're born is where you will stay. Now, the problem with that is mostly the cities is where you make money. But most Chinese people live in the villages, okay? So the question is, I'm going to give you a choice. You're going to be a Chinese person, okay? And we're going to do this interactively. The hukou system. In China, 1.3 system is governed by something called the hukou, which means where you're born is where you must stay and live your whole life, okay? Now, the problem with that is if you are in a village and majority of Chinese people live in villages, there is no money to be had in the villages, right? You only make money in the cities, right? But because you have it's like a certificate, kind of like a passport, you can't go into the city, right? Unless maybe a factory, okay? So we're going to do this. Usually I do this with my smaller group of 45, but we're going to try to do it 210, okay? All right. We're going to do your right and left. Okay. All right, raise your hand, guys, if you want to stay. So raise your right hand if you want to stay on the farm and make no money. Raise your right hand. Nobody? You don't want to stay with your family? Okay. Raise your left hand if you're willing to work in the factory. Okay. Raise your left hand, you're willing to work in the factory. Okay. Does anyone work in the factory? Now, in the factory, you work 10 cents an hour. Right? But that's versus zero, nothing, okay? All right, so factory workers, why would you want to work in a factory? Well, generally, we're talking about the villagers, peasants in China, and that is their main choice. It's usually a factory or stay on the farm, okay? All right, so yes?
Personally, I would work in the factory to try to make money to move somewhere else.
Excellent, okay. A lot of the Chinese, they do choose to work in the factory, right? Because you do make a lot of money. You can buy a house for your family. You can buy materials like a TV, okay? So you do have this transition. But guys, what's the downside of working in a factory? So the same issues with the nanny, you won't see your family, but also I want you guys to think of the physical kind of illnesses they might have, and also when I was in Hong Kong, my research is actually labor in Hong Kong, China, and I looked at Disney actually laborers, and what happened is, has anyone heard of Disney? All right. Well, I've seen Disney too, but in a different way. I looked at the actual factory injuries of Disney. So I basically saw no fingers, no hands, gashes in the thighs. It was so traumatic. I actually stopped hearing for 24 hours in Hong Kong. So there are actually huge issues of working in the factory. There are no safety gear. Okay, there is no safety gear. Okay, there is no kind of health care where if you get sick or something happens. Okay. All right. So those are the two choices. Okay, either stay in the farm generally, or you work in the factory, okay? Now, there's another choice that you might want to consider if you're a Chinese worker. Would you become undocumented? Raise your hand if you'd be undocumented within China. So you, Mr. Andrew, you're not allowed to go into Beijing, but you would sneak into Beijing anyway. Okay, so we have actually over hundreds of millions of Chinese people who sneak into the cities, right? They're undocumented, okay? Now, another choice, yes? It's called bribery. If you can bribe the right person, you can get out of it, okay? Right, you'd be jailed. Okay, yeah, if you're caught, you'd be jailed then, okay? All right, ladies, there's undocumented in China, also outside the country, I want you to think about. There are Chinese who try to leave China, right? Except for they mostly don't make it out, right? You have to go through many countries, Cambodia, Laos, they usually don't make it out, okay? All right, ladies and gentlemen, there's another choice that you could do. Would you marry an elderly person from Hong Kong? Now, these marriages do occur, and we're going to talk in one of our readings. We're going to talk about this. Where ladies, you're at 20s, right? 20s. Would you marry your dad or grandfather? Okay. Age-wise, not actually your direct. Okay. Age-wise, gentlemen, would you marry an elderly woman because you would get their hukou? Oh my. Okay. Someone 60, that's fine. The older the better. Why the older the better? Why are you saying that over there? Why the older the better? That's scaring me.
Like, I would do it if they were super old, and it was a lot more beneficial because if they're super old, they're closer to dying, which means I'd have to deal with it as long. but I would still benefit from it.
All right. Unfortunately, guys, Hong Kong has one of the longest living women and men on the planet. Okay, so they will live to the 90s, so 60, still 30 more years. Okay. All right. So I do want you to think about these are real choices that people make, right? And yes or no, I want you guys to think about it and write in your blogs. When I was in Hong Kong, I would, pick up my daughter and it'd be the preschool, but you think it's the grandfather or great-grandfather picking up the child, but no, it's the father, right? But they'd have a mainland Chinese wife, right? So I do want you to think about that, okay? All right. Ms. Connie, and all your writing questions should go to her. Wants to talk to you, so we'll end the class with her.
Hi, how are you guys? Good. I know you're so eager for me to finish so you can leave. Basically, I was told there were some questions. Anybody? We do have a few more workshop sessions available. They end next week, and I only have a few more seats available. If you cannot sign in, or if the times do not work, please let me know as soon as possible so that I can try to accommodate you in some way. I can't guarantee that I'll get you like the optimal choice, but I will try to accommodate you in some way. Are there any general questions? Yes? We are located in Surge, first floor, right next to the hub and across from the University Hall. So if you ever had a lecture in that really big lecture hall, we are directly across from there. Any other questions? Yes. No, basically we have 3 rounds, 2 of which are required. So we have round 1, part of this week and part of next week. Round 2, we will discuss a different topic, and you would go to 1 session in that one. So you would have a total of 2 sessions to attend. If you want to go to more, you're more than welcome to, but the bare minimum is 2. Yes, sir, and then you in the back. Tuesday the 15th. Yes. If that's the last one there is, that is the last one. Okay, I'm sorry. Well, the intent of the workshops is to prepare you for that and discuss some of the paper guidelines. If you want to go ahead and get started, I fully commend you, and I think that's a good idea. But you don't have to. Okay, was there a question in the back? Or did we answer the question? Okay. And I just want to remind you, please make sure you show up on time. If you're more than 20 minutes late, you will have to go to another session. Okay? All right. So if there are no other questions, I will see you later, and I will turn this over to the professor.
You're awesome.
Great, thanks.
Thanks, honey. I don't understand. I got like 80 emails from them.
I just enrolled in this class like Sunday, so I didn't get the first 2 turn it in Thursday. How do I turn it in? Oh, it's Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Working in the U.S. Can I do it?
Yes, of course. There's a book by one of my students called The Message by Dell.
Do you want me to show you?
It's called The Message.
Thank you. Okay, when do we turn in our first week's readings?
I'm going to keep it for now. We'll give you back.
Okay. Also, when I did the discussion, I don't think I saw my my paper going because I put a reply to your assignment. But I'm not, like, I don't know, like, I feel like they're not popping up for me. So
if not, do it again.
Okay, thank you so much. I just don't want to be monitored.
That's fine.
Yeah, art credit.
I just added the class today.
So you know how there's stuff like the syllabus, tools, it's all the way at the bottom. Bottom left tab. Okay.
It's not letting me in yet because I was literally just signed up for the class like today. What did you want me to do with the work I've missed in the previous class? Okay. What's this whole thing?
Okay, so you have to sign up with Ms. Connie about writing. You're going to write a paper on labor, women in labor, okay? And she's the writing instructor. So you have to do 2 wired actual workshops for the paper.
And that's on the syllabus?
It is, and actually it's not on the syllabus, it's actually on the iLearn. You have to contact Connie. And so they're actually filling up fast. So you can't do it at the end because they're all gone. So you have to talk to her after this, right? I would talk to her. Try to sign up ASAP. Welcome. Yes.
This class, so I know there's a summary that you have to do. So I think I missed
Two
two,
summaries.
right?
Yeah, you missed 2. So turn it to me next Thursday.
Next Thursday.
Yeah, which is 2 days from now. Yeah, turn it and give me 2 summaries. And are you on iLearn?
Yeah.
All right, so everyone else's summaries. Its first paragraph is summary. The last paragraph is actually your thing. So look at the other people's summaries.
Oh, so do I need to make a reply or?
You should apply to China as well. But we need the syllabus first.
Oh.
All the syllabus.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I just enrolled in the class, but I don't have access to iLearn yet.
Okay. Do you have the syllabus?
No.
Okay. When will you get iLearn access?
I don't know. I thought I was talking to you about it because I enrolled during the weekend and I still haven't had access.
Are you an Ocean student or you're a regular student?
Yeah.
You should do it within a couple days. If not, you have to email that happens. You too. So I just want to know. Quiz on Thursday. So I want you guys to catch up with me because we have a quiz on Thursday. Okay. So this Thursday, yes, it's going to be all of you that we've accomplished. So I want to get the book. The book is in the book. It's impossible to reserve. It's a reserve, but as soon as it's never available. Okay. So you need to purchase the book.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were in the other one.
Okay. Will I still be able to turn them in?
Yes, you can still turn them in. Okay. Definitely. Okay.
Are you on? You have access to iLearn yet?
No, I don't. I only
So for
have
the 3 summaries
just
that I already did? Okay, how about this? Send me an email and I will give you all the time.
Everything's on iLearn, right? The very first
Can you?
Well, on the iLearn, but it's 2 books. Right? It's one is
Okay, yeah.
one is that, one is
Can I? Or why Chow?
So purchase it. Yes.
Oh, I have it. I just want to know. And then I think the rest of the
001. Yes.
What do I have?
At
Summary,
UCR.edu.
and then after the summary, you have to upload it, and then give a response to
Okay.
it.
And then the blog.
And then if
I
you
saw
have
something
something
that says
The
blog.
blog is the same thing.
Oh, okay. All
But
right.
again, we're having a quiz on Thursday, so catch up on all
Can I
the
figure
reading.
something out?
Okay.
And this workshop is for to better my writing for the paper.
It's taking the class on the internet.
How do you do the internet?
And the form is open question, multiple choice.
It's true, false, multiple choice.
So we're having 2 sessions to get ready for it.
Right.
2 separate sessions.
Global.
So you know how we don't have like discussions or TAs,
Paper or
so you
2.5
kind of beat up to
It's actually the same exact thing. Okay.
Really?
5 pages double
Because
space
it's
is the same
related
as
to writing.
2.5.
That's what I'm doing. I don't do the discussion
Right,
part,
single
and I
space
don't do the
is
grading.
2.5.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you want to talk about it?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, hello.
Two questions. I've already kind of had it. So do I still have time to catch up with all the blogs?
You can, but you're just like really behind, okay? So we're gonna have a quiz on Thursday, okay? So you want to catch up all week, because on Thursday it's gonna test in all the reading and before. So
And-
just catch up.
Okay, but as far as the 5 summaries, like, I can still make those up, or is yes? Okay, my second question is, you know, we talk about all these like human rights that are violated. Doesn't the UN have like a universal human right? How do they legitimize people getting like taken advantage of?
Well, we have never adopted the human rights. America has never adopted it. So we don't follow it ourselves.
Oh, okay, America.
Yeah, America. We
So
have not-
China, how about China?
China has not also
Oh, not part of the UN.
has not adopted it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So actually, not all countries have adopted it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a mostly Northern Europeans. Yeah. Good question though.
Okay, so I'm really sorry to bother you.
No worries.
The reading response, I'm really confused. I think I did it wrong, and so I want to be able to do it exactly right. I turned it in today, but okay. So that means there's 5 different ones that we do. One due each Tuesday.
Every Tuesday, yes.
But there was one that was due last Thursday to make up for the one on Tuesday.
Right, that's correct.
Right. Okay, so I didn't do that one yet. Is it okay if I
Yes,
can still
turn
do
on
that?
Thursday.
Okay, and then I did not submit the one online that I turned in today. Can I submit that online still? I'll do the both tonight. I'm really sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
And then you mentioned that you were going to talk about lean-in and
What?
You were going to talk about the book Lean-In with Sheryl Sandberg.
Oh, yeah. We'll talk about, have a little chat about that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I just was wondering if, when we talk about that, I've actually started a club called Lean-In based off of her whole movement.
Oh, interesting.
So, if...
Well, it'd be a critique of that, actually.
Oh, really?
That'd be a critique of it, yeah.
Okay, well,
Because
I have critiques of it, too.
Yeah, because it's she's a millionaire, right?
Yeah.
And she has nannies, right? So for
She
her,
does?
well, she has domestic workers. She's a millionaire. She has the CEO of Facebook, right? So the huge critique is, and actually there's another professor from Berkeley, actually, Slaughter, and her article is called "Women Can't Have It," right? So she's directly contradicting her, right? So actually, we're gonna talk both sides, right?
Okay.
So there actually is no I have no opinion about it, but we're gonna debate this class, right? But we'll see if the class wants to talk about it.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to ask if I could, like, when we talk about that, just, like, mention her, because it's not only just about, like, her, it's mostly about, like, the group analyzing women, and I think a lot of people in this class would be really...
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Yeah, I think they're great. You can announce it.
Thank you so much.
Hello.
I'm new to class. I just moved. So she mentioned, and you mentioned in class right now in the beginning about summaries. Yes. So there's readings online because I wrote on my phone and.
Oh, okay. Well, you're very behind this point. We've had meetings, we've had some lectures, and we've had a lot of meetings. So this Thursday we're going to have a quiz, based on all the readings. So I would, no, so that one is online, but the majority are in two books, Global Women and Introduction to Women, which is in the bookstore, okay? You can rent the Introduction to Women for $50, and then you can buy the Global Women for $13.
Global Woman?
Global, it's actually in the bookstore, you can just look it underneath.
Oh, okay. And then what chapters are?
Well, it's in the syllabus, you have a look at the syllabus.
Oh, okay.
So if you're in the class, you should be able to access the syllabus and read it very carefully.
Okay.
So at this point, the quiz, it's very important that you catch up with reading, right? So please catch up with reading. That's although the books are reserved, it's never available. The students have always gotten it, so it's never available.
Okay.
So I would just buy the book. They're $3. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's up to you. You have to make up 2 summaries.
Okay.
So you have
Two summaries? There's 2?
There's 2. No, there's 5 actually, but there's 1 a week. So this is the